How to survive a nuclear bomb. The risk of nuclear war is on the rise. No one wants to think about the devastation a nuclear bomb could cause, but it's important to be prepared. A nuclear bomb is one of the most devastating weapons that can be used against a population. The effects of a nuclear explosion are well documented, and the devastation that such a weapon can cause is hard to overstate. Despite this, there are steps that you can take to increase your chances of survival if you find yourself in the vicinity of a nuclear detonation. In this video, I outline some of the key things you need to do to improve your odds of making it through an event that would otherwise be almost certainly fatal. I cover things like what happens when a nuclear bomb detonates, how to recognize a nuclear explosion, a step-by-step to surviving a nuclear bomb, and more. With that said, I highly recommend that you visit our site and read the full article, where I also write about the brief history of nuclear attacks and threats, the current nuclear threats and conflicts, how to treat radiation injuries following a nuclear attack, and more. Let's begin. What is a nuclear threat? A nuclear threat is an attack that involves the use of nuclear weapons. This includes a terrorist group detonating a nuclear bomb, or a country launching a nuclear missile at another country. A nuclear threat can also be an indirect attack, such as disrupting access to supplies of food and water. A nuclear bomb does not have to be detonated to be used as a threat. Nuclear deterrence is a strategy employed by nations with nuclear weapons to prevent attack from other nations also possessing nuclear weapons. The theory behind nuclear deterrence is that the threat of mutually assured destruction will stop an enemy from attacking, because the consequences would be too great for both sides. Nuclear deterrence has been successful in preventing large-scale wars since the development of nuclear weapons, and it is often credited with helping to maintain peace during the Cold War. What happens when a nuclear bomb detonates? A nuclear bomb is an explosive device that derives its destructive force from nuclear reactions, either fission or a combination of fission and fusion. The term also refers to a device consisting of a core of radioactive material surrounded by explosives which detonate simultaneously, causing an intense burst of radiation. When a nuclear bomb goes off, the explosion can be devastating. The effects of a nuclear bomb depend on many factors, such as the type of weapon used, the altitude at which it detonated, weather conditions, and the terrain. In general, however, there are four main types of effects: blast damage, thermal radiation damage, ionizing radiation damage, and fallout. Blast damage is caused by the shock wave created by the explosion. This shock wave can cause extensive structural damage to buildings and other structures. Thermal radiation damage is caused by the heat generated by the explosion. This heat can cause burns and fires. Ionizing radiation damage is caused by exposure to high levels of radioactivity. This radioactivity can cause cell death and lead to cancer. Fallout is debris that has been contaminated with radioactivity that has been blasted into the atmosphere by the explosion. This fallout can contaminate food and water supplies and cause health problems for people who are exposed to it. How to recognize a nuclear explosion? Assuming you are not close enough to the initial blast to be vaporized, there are still a couple of ways to tell if a nuclear explosion has occurred. The first and most obvious sign is an incredibly bright light, accompanied by a deafening boom. If you are anywhere near the epicenter of the blast, it will feel like the sun has suddenly appeared at midnight and is burning your skin. Another telltale sign of a nuclear explosion is what scientists call an air burst. This happens when the heat from the explosion causes the air around it to expand rapidly. The result is a shock wave that can level buildings and throw people hundreds of meters into the air. If you see either of these signs, it's safe to assume that a nuclear bomb has gone off nearby. Now you must take action in order to survive the nuclear blast. How to survive a nuclear bomb, step by step. Here are the steps you must take in order to survive a nuclear bomb. 1. Find shelter. When a nuclear bomb detonates, the explosion creates a shockwave that can level buildings and cause injuries or death. The heat from the blast can also start fires that spread quickly and burn anything in their path. If you are caught in the open, your best chance of survival is to find shelter as soon as possible. The first thing you should do is get away from the area where the blast occurred. If you can, go into a nearby building or underground space, such as a basement or subway station. Ideally, you should get into a bomb shelter, but there might not be one nearby. If there is no time to get indoors, lie flat on the ground behind something that will shield you from flying debris, a car, tree, ditch, etc. Cover your head and body with whatever you have available, blankets, clothes, newspapers, to protect yourself from radioactive fallout particles that could settle on the ground after the blast. Of course, surviving the initial blast is just half the battle. You also need to make sure that your shelter can protect you from fallout. Fallout is made up of radioactive material that gets blasted into the air after a nuclear explosion. It can settle on the ground for miles around and contaminate anything it comes into contact with, including people. To protect yourself from fallout, seal off any cracks or gaps in your shelter and cover them with plastic sheeting or tape. This will help keep out contaminated air and dust particles. If you're serious about surviving the nuclear bomb, I would advise investing in a reliable, high-quality shelter. I personally recommend the services of Vivos Shelters, a professional company that specializes in building durable shelters and even underground cities. Their bunkers can fit any number of people and contain everything you need to survive for extended periods of time. See the link to the company in the description section below this video. 2. Remain inside and listen to the emergency radio. Remain inside your shelter until the all-clear command was broadcasted by the authorities. If you don't hear anything from the authorities, stay inside for at least 24 hours. If you do hear from them, act as instructed by them and stay inside for as long as you're told. An emergency radio can provide you with vital information about what is happening and where you need to go. It can also help keep you calm in the face of disaster. Here are some crucial suggestions how to make the most out of your emergency radio. 1. Find a good spot to set up your radio. You want somewhere that has good reception and where you can easily hear the broadcast. 2. Make sure your batteries are fresh, or that you have a backup power source. In an emergency situation, you may not be able to recharge your batteries, so it is important to have backups. 3. Familiarize yourself with the different types of emergency alert system, EAS, messages that may be broadcasted over the radio, so that you know what they mean and what actions you need to take. 4. Pay attention to any instructions that are given on the broadcast. They could potentially save your life or the lives of those around you. 5. Stay tuned into the station for updates as things can change quickly during an emergency situation. If you're not sure what radio you should get, go for the very best. The American Red Cross Emergency Radio can receive alerts for every possible emergency, so you'll always be in the know. The radio has a bright, easy-to-read display, and it's both durable and lightweight. Plus, it comes with a handy carrying case, so you can take it with you wherever you go. It also functions as a phone charger, LED flashlight, and flashing emergency beacon. Can be charged by a hand crank, built-in battery, or solar panel. See the link to this radio in the description section below the video. 3. Consume safe food only. To avoid consuming contaminated food, drink only bottled water and eat only canned food. This is the only safe food that's immediately available. Always make sure you have stockpiled water and food before any potential disaster strikes. Store them in your shelter and periodically refresh and replace them. Before eating and drinking, inspect the cans and the bottles to ensure that they haven't been opened and used before. Bottled water. While it's possible to find safe drinking water in the aftermath of a nuclear explosion, it's not always easy. Bottled water will give you a clean, safe source of hydration that you can rely on in an emergency situation. When stocking up on bottled water, try to get a variety of sizes so that you have enough to last your entire family for several days. It's also a good idea to store some bottles in your car and at work, in case you need to evacuate quickly or are caught away from home. And remember, when it comes to survival, it's better to err on the side of caution, so don't hesitate to stockpile more water than you think you'll need. Canned food. Canned food can last for many years and is easy to store. Plus, canned food is easy to cook and doesn't require any special equipment. It can be a lifesaver during the hours and days that follow a nuclear attack. Here are some tips on how to consume canned food. 1. Choose wisely. When selecting canned foods, look for items that are high in calories and protein and low in fat. Fat will go rancid quickly, so it's best to avoid cans with a lot of fat. If you're not sure what to buy, see the link in the description section below for a great selection of high-quality, affordable, delicious and nutritious canned food, available on Amazon. 2. Inspect the can. Before you open a can of food, inspect it carefully. Look for signs of rust or dents. If there are any damaged cans, throw them away, they could be contaminated with bacteria or toxins. 3. Wash your hands. Always wash your hands before handling food, especially if you've been outside or near anything that could be contaminated, like a nuclear blast site. 4. Open the can. Use a can opener to open the top of the can. Be careful not to cut yourself on the sharp edges of the lid. Once the can is open, use a clean fork or spoon to scoop out the contents into a bowl or plate. What to do after the nuclear attack is over? Once you have survived the initial nuclear blast and fallout, there are still some things you need to do to ensure your continued survival. Here is a list of what you should do after the nuclear attack is over. 1. Get out of the city if you can. The further away from ground zero you are, the better. Radiation will be most concentrated in urban areas. If you live in a city, try to get to a rural area as soon as possible. 2. Find clean water and food. This may be difficult in the aftermath of a nuclear attack, but it is essential for your survival. Stick to aforementioned bottled water, canned goods, or other non-perishable food items. Avoid eating anything from contaminated areas, this includes fruits and vegetables that may have been exposed to radiation fallout. 3. Seek medical attention if needed. If you were injured during the attack or are suffering from radiation sickness, it is important to seek medical help as soon as possible. There will likely be many people who need assistance, so don't expect immediate care. Triage will be necessary in many cases. Be patient and help others if you are able. Eventually someone will come to assist those who need it most urgently first. I will explain further in the article how to treat radiation injuries. Try to stay calm and avoid panic. It can be easy to feel overwhelmed after surviving a nuclear bomb, but panicking will only make matters worse. Take deep breaths, focus on taking care of yourself and others, and remember that every step you take towards recovery is one step closer to rebuilding your life. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to our channel for more videos about off-grid, camping, survival and other interesting topics. For the full article, and more information about off-grid living, survival, camping, and much more, please visit our site and enjoy our articles on these and other topics. Have an amazing day.